I got to pick George Morris up from the airport once, and he took me out to dinner. I'm pretty sure it was actually early evening, but we went to Panera, and all these people came up to us, and I also felt like a superstar because I was on a date with George Morris.
Welcome to the Major League Eventing Podcast, the show for eventing fans by eventing fans.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Karen. On today's show, we chat with four-star eventer Caitlin Silliman.
Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here, guys.
Super. Where are you at right now? Are you up north, down south?
Right now, I'm standing by one of the horses' paddocks in Aiken, South Carolina. I'm coming up next weekend, so I'm down here for one more week. A little bit of a delayed trip back up than everyone else. I guess some people stay down through the Fork, and most go home through Southern Pines to get the horses for Rolex galloping up and down the hills. But I'm pretty psyched to head back to PA in a week's time.
And when you come up, are you staying for a long time, or is
I am. So I've sort of changed my routine. I'm going to do 6 months. So I'll stay
cool.
up through November and then come down to Aiken a bit earlier than everyone else because I have a great client base down here and lots of students that I love to teach. And in the middle of the summer, I'll try to come down and teach some clinics down here. But I'm going to stay in Pennsylvania through the summer and take some riding lessons.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we'll a little later on we'll talk about what you got going on up here down south. But let's we'll get to that in a little bit.
So Caitlin, so just so everyone listening could kind of get to know you a little bit better, can you take us back to the beginning and tell us how you got into riding and at what age you started?
Yeah, so I'm not from a super horsey family. My grandmother had horses, and like the story that everyone wants to live by, she lived in a small town and had 2 horses of her own that she kept in her backyard, and she rode them all over town, took all the boyfriend prospects on rides and got them bucked off and rode bareback and played cowboys and Indians. So really, really fun old time riding, not like no lessons or showing or any of that. And then because she had the horse bug, then my mother grew up with it. Again, she didn't show it all. She did take some riding lessons. They grew up near Bruce Davidson's Chesterland, and they were still running the Chesterland event. So she grew up watching some eventing. So I inherited a little bit of the bug as a kid. Horse stuffed animals, horse books, pointing horses out when we drove past. And then I just lucked out. Our next door neighbor, my parents got me 6 riding lessons for my 6th birthday. And my next door neighbor at the time boarded a horse with Susie Beal, who is an eventing trainer. And so that was it. Stuck with it ever since. I think that my parents probably wish they had bought me a soccer ball or some ballet slippers instead. But that was that. I got the bug from there. And on we went. I stayed with Susie for 11 years. I did the Young Riders in 2006, and after that I got my driver's license. I met a bunch of girls through there. Susie got me through the 2-star level. I was introduced to Philip through her taking lessons and going up with her, and met Kevin Keene, the veterinarian, and that whole group. And then some of the girls that were currently training with Philip were on my Young Riders team. And so after Young Riders in 2006, I had a driver's license. I was 16, and so I was able to move my horses out for some more training and branch out a little bit. I moved to Kate Hicks's barn first. Her husband Jamie Hicks sells hay to all the horse trainers in the Unionville area and South Carolina as well. But I boarded there and worked off my board for her and was jumping with Boyd a bit. He was newly over here from Australia. And when his wife Silva came over, I think I had a dressage lesson booked in with Philip, and I don't think flat lessons are Philip's favorite kind of lessons to teach. And he said, Boyd's wife just got into town. Maybe have a lesson with her. And,
I didn't even know he would. I didn't know that was. I've never heard of anyone that got a dressage lesson with Philip.
Yeah, well, this is the real story. So I have this lesson with Silva, and I cannot get the horse's head down. I mean, I'm going intermediate, and the horse's head won't go down. It's a lazy horse. It's Irish. I'm trying. She gets on. She can get it right down. I do not have the feel, and I cannot figure it out. And so about 3 lessons into it, she said, I think that we would get a lot better if I rode the horse for 2 weeks. And I didn't, I didn't come from a lot of money. And so I had to work off and, lessons board, all of that. And so I worked for her for those 2 weeks that she rode the horse. I went to the 2-star. It all got better. And at the end of those 2 weeks, she asked if I was going to college. I had applied, and I quickly deferred, and I took a grooming job with Silva.
Wow. And were you going to keep eventing? You were just kind of going to groom for her?
Well, so then as event horses go, the horse actually got hurt at that 2-star that I did. It was at Stewart Horse Trials. It was just a CIC 2-star. And so I had to rehab him and didn't have an event horse for a while, and really got lucky because Silva was just starting her business over here. She rented the top barn at Phillips, and I was completely under her wing. She spent so much time teaching me and allowing me to ride her very trained horses and learning the feel and how to start a young horse and watching her train her horses through Grand Prix. And so having these lame horses, I got to go down to Wellington with her. So I groomed for her for, I think, 2-3 years.
Wow.
And maybe a half after that. A lot of people actually don't know that. They think that I just kind of mixed in between. And then I sold the horse that I rehabbed and bought. Silva and I actually went and bought one together. That's another story. I went with Silva to buy an event horse. But anyway, bought a young horse while we were down in Florida. We needed to teach it how to jump because it was a dressage horse. And so
natural to buy a dressage horse to be an eventer.
That's right. And then about at the same time, Boyd was finishing up working for Philip and going out on his own. And so for a long time, we were all in the same barn together, and I worked for them both.
Wow. Hey, real quick, before we go into the Boyd years, Susie Beal, what is Susie doing in her program? I mean, it seems like there is a lot of people that come through the Susie Beal pipeline, including your daughters. I mean, they're knocking it out of the park. You knocked it out of the park. I mean, you were young. What is I would love to talk to her, but in your opinion, what is the program? How does she? It seems like she gets riders and she keeps them and she develops them like amazingly at a young age.
She does. She's a great lady. She's from Great Britain, so she's tough as nails, and she trains you like that from the start. She starts a ton of kids I was taking up-down lessons on a lunge line with her all the way through 2-star level. She's ridden herself through the 4-star level. Her dad has ridden on the eventing team. He's been around Burley. I think he's also ridden on the dressage team. So she comes from a incredible horse background. And she has a riding school. So I don't think there are that many barns left where you can take lessons and learn how to ride, but not actually own your own horse and get up the level. She has a big string of ponies, and then she had some horses that she is very good at splitting half fleeces with and making sure that everyone feels like they have their own horse. And then also, again, then very good at finding the right match of a horse for a young rider and getting them up through the levels. And she also does an incredible job at grouping kids together, all of similar ages, no one of the same age. And then it's kind of nice, the ones that you're so sucked into the horse world, you travel with the horses, you spend so much time at the barn. And so to have a camaraderie with a bunch of girls outside of your school, the whole social aspect is not, especially now being an adult, managing a bunch of teenagers is not an easy feat at all. And she does a really good job. So anybody looking for riding lessons in the Malvern area or Aiken, they should definitely give Susie Beal a call.
Yeah. And you said you rode her horses for, a long time. When did you finally get your own? And like, how old were you? And what
I did not get my own horse until I was 15. It was a great situation. It was actually a girl that I grew up riding with. Susie, it was an Irish imported horse, and Susie found the horse for her, and she rode him through preliminary level and then moved away from riding. And so her family very nicely sold him to us for the deal of the century because my parents were in no position to buy a horse, and everyone really made it happen for me. And so I got very lucky in that way. And he was a great horse. I did young riders on him. He was our team, and the 1-star was team bronze, and I was individual bronze, and he took me through intermediate. So
wow, that is all. Is this the same horse that wouldn't get his head down with Silva?
Yes, same one. Same one.
I think you've taught. I think I might have seen you give some lessons on kids with horses that won't get their heads down.
Now Silva has taught me the magic. Anybody who struggles on the flat, and if you're not going to book a lesson with Silva, I can give you a hand. Share the knowledge.
Oh, that's fun. So just to get back to where I cut you off, how did Boyd steal you away from Silva?
So I finally had sound event horses, and her business was growing, and his business was growing, and so they sort of it was time to divide. We had a smaller barn, and so Silva hired an incredible girl named Devin Seary, who still works for her a little bit now, but has gone all the way through school with her and now has a real job, but I think still helps Silva when she's in a pinch and rides for her and stuff. And anyway, she actually had a horse that jumped a little bit when she first came, so again was helping both out. And her horse at the time, Dozer, he really didn't want to be a jumper, so she traded him in for a dressage horse and stuck with Silva. And I traded my dressage horses in for an event horse, and I moved over with Boyd.
Wow. And were you guys at Windora at that time?
We were not. We were at the barn that burnt down at Phillips. So at one time, Boyd and Silva had all of their horses in the upper barn at Phillips, where his house is now. And then once they got too big, actually before the barn burnt down, Boyd's horses remained in the upper barn at Phillips, and Silva had all of her horses over at Delaware Equine Center, where Ryan Wood is now, shares the barn with Kevin Keene.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the barn. I think I think most people that know that you were, were you guys living above the barn? Is that
we
how
were?
It goes?
Yep.
Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Ryan and I lived above the barn that burnt down, and then we were very fortunate. Lillian Hurd, who's one of my good friends, and also worked for Boyd and Silva from the start. She started just as they started to get bigger. I did Young Riders with Lillian, and she was looking to move from Virginia, and she called me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, we need help. Can you call Silva and see?" And they hired her on the spot, and so we were kind of the four musketeers for a while. But Lillian was in between houses and happened to be staying over the night that happened, and she had gone out to dinner and so was sleeping pretty lightly, and we were very lucky that she woke up as fast as she did and woke us up, and we did what we could to get as many horses out as we were able to.
Wow. And your own personal Hoku was in the barn at the time, is that right? She was, yep. She was, she had been second at Jersey Fresh 2-star and was shortlisted for the Pan Ams, and it was Memorial Day weekend, and I was actually supposed to start her back to work like that Monday, just after Memorial Day. And we're just so lucky we got her out. I think Philip actually is the one that got her out. She was in the barn aisle and backwards, and he had gone in, and most people couldn't go in anymore from all of the smoke, and he was able to make some sort of noise, and she turned around and looked at him and then came out. And I'll never forget seeing Evie holding her outside the barn, and she was all black, and I didn't think it was her at first. I had already told my mom that we can't find her, and we didn't know what stall she was in. Barn's burning down, she's in there, and there Evie was holding her in the courtyard, and wow,
I don't think I've ever been that happy.
Holy smokes!
Amidst a lot of sadness, it was definitely a silver lining that she was able to get out, and then became an incredible horse for me. That happened in May, and a year later we did our first 3-star together, and then she went on to do 3 Rolexes after that. So I owe my entire career and most of my experience to her, and we certainly wouldn't have done all of that without Boyd and Silva's guidance, but she's been a huge part of my life, and I still have her with me now. She's fat and hairy and retired, and she comes wherever I go, and I pat her every day and try to not mess with her fluffy hair as little as I can.
So she's unrecognizable for anyone to just sneak in and...
She is a little bit. She still has that same sweet face, but once they let themselves go, it's hard, when they're...
Tell me about it. Have you seen me lately?
you're brushing them twice a day and messing with them all the time and feeling their legs, and so it's a little hard to like let them look so wild. But she's very happy, and it makes me happy to see her every day. So.
She has some good genes. Have you ever thought about passing those genes on?
I have, but she's 18 this year, and I think she would love to be a mother. But again, I feel like because she's been through the barn fire, and I just wouldn't want anything to happen to her. So
Right.
Yeah.
I was a bit too late on that one. I
just
should have
love
thought of
her
it
and
a little
hug
bit
on
earlier.
her and.
Hug on her. I wish she was really good at going on trail rides, because I would maybe do that, but she's still too high strung for that. Maybe when she's in her 20s.
I love that about
that.
event horses. Like I love that when they still mentally are fresh. I love that.
Yeah. If you tacked her up tomorrow, she would think that she was probably going galloping to get ready for Rolex or some big event. She would be sure of it. Yeah.
That is awesome.
So back to Rolex. Now the Land Rover, Kentucky 4-star.
Right.
What was it like to compete in your first 4-star?
It was incredible. And, honestly, I've been there 3 times, and it never wears off. Like, being around, riding in the ring with William Fox Pitt and Andrew Nicholson, and you're just so shocked you're there. Like, you walk around, and people are like, oh, my gosh, that's a Rolex rider. You know what I mean? Like, you're such a star for the weekend, and it's such a great event, and it's run really well, and the sponsorship's amazing. Like, you just have to soak in every second of it, whether the weekend goes your way or not. Like, it's hard you got to stay focused and keep your mind in the game, but then you have to take a few minutes to just enjoy it, because it is such an incredible event.
Yeah. Now, was there a difference between in the experience between your first time and your second and third time?
Definitely. I think the first time I was so starstruck and like couldn't believe I was there, and I was just going for survival, and I had a great weekend. I had an unfortunate 20, which was just my greenness in the last third of the course, but my mare jumped around it so well. Like it was almost too easy. She
Wow.
it was a fairy tale round. She was such a good girl. And so she finished that one. And then the second one, I think I was almost more nervous, because I had already done it, and I walked the course, and the jumps somehow looked bigger. But then I'm telling myself that I already jumped them, and I was a little bit more relaxed. I didn't have a great year the second year. And then the third year, it was pouring rain. I've never had to ride around a huge track in torrential rain, but as Boyd Martin would say, eventing is an outdoor sport, and you can't control the weather. So get going, mate. And she jumped her ground great, and unfortunately she did attend in cross country, so I didn't trot her up on Sunday because she was lame. But I did have a great round that year, and I haven't had to ride in those conditions and kind of be tough like that. And so, but each year was just as special as the one before. But I definitely, my first year, I think if I had to pick, that was by far the most incredible year.
So, obviously your time with Boyd and Silva, preparing you to go and get into this. Now you're in your elite level. You're doing your 4 years. What about Boyd's program do you think is, was it the polishing, to get you to that 4-star level? What?
I mean, he is the master. It's foolproof. If you let him guide you every step of the way, he will get you to a 4-star. You got to buckle down, you got to keep your head down, and you got to work really hard every day. You got to show up, and if you put in the time, he'll get you there. But you got to trust him, and not every day is awesome. There are probably more bad days than good days, just the work is really hard. But you've got to be in it, and you've got to put in the hours and keep your eye on your goal, and he'll get you there.
So now time goes on. You have, I think now you, later on you're getting closer to going out on your own. You got James, because I'm not giving that a shot at trying to say his name.
No.
I'm not either.
You have him, and now you're making a decision to go out on your own. And can you share with us the thought process, how that goes, and what's more are you nervous to tell Boyd that you want to go on your own, or is this is Boyd pushing you out of the nest?
It was the scariest thing I've ever done. I think that I was crying before I even told him I needed to talk to him. But it's the sort of thing, I've been with him for such a long time, and I could have stayed forever, and kept going and kept going and kept going. But there's a time when you need to go out on your own. I was with him for over 7 years, and when I decided to go, I felt the time was right. Sort of the rotation of young horses that I competed for him and his owners and helped him start, they were all going preliminary and starting to move up to intermediate, which is really when Boyd takes them on full time. And so I don't know, I just all of a sudden, Hoku was out, James is young, and I felt this urge that I was ready. And I don't think you're ever ready, but I put in a lot of hours with Boyd and Silva, and I watched them. They had a business in Australia, but I watched them start their business here, and you know, it was a bit sink or swim. Boyd guided me the whole way. There were a lot of phone calls to him, making sure that I was on the right track, and I still ride with both of them. And definitely the first week when you're not working for someone full time is scary. You've got a lot of time on your hands. All of a sudden you're the boss. You can go and come as you want, and it's weird. You almost feel like you're doing something wrong. But you got to keep showing up every day. I have to remember everything that I've learned from them. I've got to continue to watch them and the rest of their students and other professionals' businesses operate and how they start their young horses. And you can't ever stop being a student. There's something to learn every day, from the horse training aspect to the business aspect to the horse management aspect. And so you got to show up, and I'm hoping by showing up and trying as hard as I can every day, one day I will be on a team and ride for my country.
Yeah, that is, I think I can't wait for that. I know it's going to happen for you.
Thank you.
I
hope
hey,
so.
I knew her.
I hope so.
And don't forget us little people when you're there, okay?
Oh, I won't forget. I get my little Silliman eventing chairs out at every event.
Oh, the little Silliman eventing chairs.
They're my favorite.
That's nice. Well, you're one of our favorites for sure. So today you're on your own. We were just talking at the beginning of the show a little bit about you're coming up north. Can you tell us a little bit about today's business? Where is Caitlin Silliman today? How many horses do you have in the farm? Where are you located? You know.
So right now I'm in Aiken, South Carolina, and I'm coming up. I rent the lower barn at Aaron Sylvester's, so I'm smack in the middle of Boyd and Phillip, and then also training alongside of another incredible rider, Aaron Sylvester. I've got 10 horses at the moment that are traveling with me. It's a great number. I have an incredible girl named Claire Tiskus that grooms, and she's a jack of all trades, rides, she does a bit of everything. She's really, I don't really call her a group, she's my assistant. She's really the boss. But I've got a good group. I've got a little bit of everything. I've got some young horses coming up the levels. I've got some more experienced horses now. I've got some sales horses. I've got a little mix of everything. I want to keep my focus on training and producing horses to the highest level that they can go, and there's always some sales horses along the way for your good clients, but I'm hoping 10's a really good number for two people, 10 to 12, and so I'm hoping to turn that 10 or 12 into, you know, having every horse be a competition horse for me, and less sales and odds and ends. But business is good, and I've got a really good group of horses, sales horses or horses to produce for myself, and so I can't complain.
So your current string of horses. So you have, I know James, and again, we're not trying to
James.
save his name, and
No,
then
let's
also
James.
a nice mare named Allie KGO. Can you tell us about the two of them and what your future plans are for them?
Yeah, so James I have syndicated. He's owned by a group of 10 people, and he's been going intermediate for a while now. He's a 9-year-old. I'm going to aim him for Bromont 2-star. I think he needs to do one more. He's a thoroughbred, so it's taken a bit to develop him. He's a bit of a weaker horse. And then maybe look at some advanced horse trials in the fall. And then Allie KGO, she's the other end of the spectrum. She's quite young. She's owned by the McHugh family, who also live in Malvern, Pennsylvania. She's just turned 7. And she's just moved up to intermediate. She is oozing with talent, and so we'll see how far she can go. She's really, taken on every test so far. She just did Carolina intermediate, and she'll be headed next to Fairhill CIC 2-star, and then maybe Jersey Fresh CIC, and then she'll have a little break and head for a CCI 2-star in the fall.
Wow.
yeah, so that's super exciting. And then I have another horse from them called Hula Bronzer. She is a half sister to Allie. She's a 5-year-old, and she's about ready to go training now. So she's another exciting youngster, really fancy mare. And then I'm also going to start riding, once I get back to Pennsylvania, another one that they've brought over from Ireland called Serrano. He's a 6-year-old Shenandoah horse by Sarko. Just starting his eventing career, so I'll take him around some novices and hopefully have him going training this summer. And same as the other ones, we'll see what he's got. But I've got a great group from them, and then I've got some really nice young horses off the track from a woman named Jean Dietert. She's from Maine. Those two are for sale sort of projects. She likes to buy young ones and see what they got and then sell them on, make a good match and sell them on, and then buy some new ones. But so that's my sort of my main group of horses, and then I've got some odds and ends in between.
Awesome. Wow. Sounds like you definitely have your hands full. So you've been on your own for 3 years now? Is that right?
I think I'm going into my 3rd year.
Going into your 3rd. So you got a nice string of horses in like your future.
I do.
I mean, it sounds like to me like you're pretty set for the next, 3 years from now. I think you're going to be.
I hope so. It's, once you get them up to intermediate, you're just kind of counting the days until you're jumping the blue numbers again. But I'm getting close.
Just a little side note. So you've ridden a 4-star horse. You've competed a 4-star horse. You've been through a 4-star track. Can you hop on a horse? Like, at what point in time do you think you can? And you've ridden tons of Boyds 4-star horses, so you know what a 4-star horse feels like. Can you sit on a horse now and know if it's got it and maybe not at 5 years old or can you tell us a little bit about that? Can you feel that and when do you think you have to feel that?
It's such a hard thing, and I think that Boyd and Philip and the real veterans can probably feel that in young horses. I think that the biggest lesson Hoku taught me was that, like, you look at pictures of her, she's an unorthodox jumper. You wouldn't, if I showed her off for sale and you didn't know that she did a 4-star, I don't think you would ever even think she could do a 4-star. But so much of it comes down to how they're trained and how their mind works and how big of a heart they have. If they want it, they'll do it for you. And if you get them fit enough and you train them well enough, you can get them there, and they're athletic enough. Obviously, the athletic ability is huge, but I think trying horses now, it's important that you've got to have a quiet horse for the dressage. The hotter they are, it makes it harder and harder, and everyone's getting better and better in the dressage. So definitely quiet for the dressage is good. They've got to have a good walk and a good canter. The trot, you can always improve a bit. So you could let them go a little bit on that as long as they go sideways. Obviously, a fancier trot is better. But you could let that go a little bit. Everyone's looking for more warm bloods now, but they've got to gallop. These courses are long, and so you need one that's going to dig deep when they're getting tired at the last part of the course, and then they got to show jump the next day. And so you've got to, even if it's a crossbred horse, they still have to have quite a bit of thoroughbred in them, I think, or look like a thoroughbred or have the mentality of a thoroughbred. Like, certainly if you look at a lot of the top horses, they aren't all thoroughbred, especially now, and a lot of them have, about 30% thoroughbred in them, but they've got to have the mentality of a thoroughbred. So when you're trying horses, I think that's important. And then with their jump, you want them to be a little bit slow in the air, and even if their legs are a bit discombobulated, if they're young, you want to always have that feeling that they go up in the air and they don't jump low and quick across the jump. You want them to jump up higher and slow, even if their legs are a little bit all over the place. But other than that, it's a little bit luck of the draw.
Those are gems, though. So just to continue on about what your business today. So I'm guessing you're coming up to PA. Are you going to take on more students, or do you already have a book of students?
No, I'm hoping to, because I've only, I've been sort of based in Aiken, so I haven't really had a group of students up there in a while since I was up with Boyd. And so I am looking to do a bit of teaching up there and take on new students, and since I haven't been up there in the summer in a long time.
So it's almost like you kind of rebuild a little bit of your
I am a little bit, yeah. I'm coming home. It's my homecoming.
Well, I want to say that we know you personally, for anyone that doesn't know that's listening, but and we've seen you coach many times, but what really struck us, Karen and I, over the winter, you may not even know. I mean, you saw us. We saw you at Stableview, and you were coaching. And I don't think I've ever seen a coach so focused on their student. And it's extremely impressive. And I just wanted to.
I have been told that I'm a little bit theatrical. I move a lot. I do a lot of I get into it. A lot of hand gestures.
I didn't see much of that, but we came up to say hello, and your focus was on your student, and you told us that you're not competing when you're coaching, and I just found that very impressive. And so anyone that's looking for that coach, that trainer, that's really going to give you your money's worth and really going to focus on you when you're got your coach's hat on, you are 100% coach. And I just want to say that I think that's pretty awesome.
Thanks, guys. I'm into it. So if you want to ride with me, I'm full on.
If you have a giant, you're not asking me. I was going to say if you had a giant horse, maybe a 2,000 pounder, it can hold me. But
we can find one.
Would you do a lunge line up down lesson with me?
Any day of the week. Now I'm going to hold you to it.
No, trust me. You don't want to see that. And then as far as how about horses and stuff? Or is your if someone had a hankering to get into the upper level horse business and ownership, are you taking on new horses or new ownership for upper levels? Do you do syndicate?
Always. I do syndicates. I have horses owned by small groups, like by just 2 or 3 people, by single people. Bit of everything. Any way someone wants to get involved, we can help you out.
Cool. Awesome. And do you, so you said you have one person working for you. Do you take on working students at all? Or are you
I do, yeah. I think she would be pretty happy to have another little helper around.
Gotcha.
Definitely. This time of year is hard because most kids are in school, but for the summer and stuff, I would love to have someone else to take on in Pennsylvania. That would be great.
So, Caitlin, do you happen to have any sort of advice for a young rider wanting to make it to the highest level of the sport?
I think the biggest thing is as a kid and you're looking at everybody riding, I think everyone thinks you have to have a huge pocketbook, and it's important, but you can do it without money too. You have to show up every day. I think that working in a professionals program, like, you're to dive into it. If you can work for a professional full time, it's tough with school, but take a gap year. If you want to do it as a professional and you want to ride at the top level, you've got to be around it all day, every day. Are you
from the Boyd Martin School of no college?
School?
The Boyd Martin School of no school.
I actually got a medical degree from Windurra University. I put in 8 years there. I think that's a med school.
Yeah, you can run you can be an EMT or working there. That is so funny, so funny. Would you recommend you would recommend the working student route, right?
Of course. I started out, everyone starts out as a working student, working off your board, and if you stick at it long enough, they'll start paying you.
It's kind of funny. One time we were down at WEF last winter for a little while. We're at a Dunkin' Donuts, and it's a different world down there in Wellington. And there was a girl on her phone talking super loud, so of course we heard it in the Dunkin' Donuts line. And she's talking about like the audacity of this one person who wanted to work off lessons. And I was like, boy, they're not eventers.
No, I don't think the other horse sports operate the way the ones do.
This girl thought it was like the person asking for this was like, coming in from Mars or something. It was funny. That was just... That was the same time we had breakfast with George Morris, Karen.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. Well, not technically.
I got to pick George Morris up from the airport once, and he took me out to dinner. I'm pretty sure it was actually early evening, but we went to Panera and all these people came up to us, and I also felt like a superstar because I was on a date with George Morris.
Ours wasn't nearly that glamorous.
No.
Ours was, we're having breakfast, George walks in, sits by himself, and we tell the waitress, hey, obviously it's George Morris, and we're there. We never see him. We're not from, we don't go down there. And it was a kind of a special treat for us. And we're like, we're going to buy George's breakfast. And another table filled up while we were there. It was that quiet of a restaurant. And then on the way out, we were like, we don't want to bother George. He doesn't have to know it's from us. He walks out and he goes up to another table and thanks the people at the other table for buying him breakfast. and he like groaned at us. Like he like grunted at me. Like I was like, oh, well, hey, so that's our
great story.
Having breakfast with George Morris. Oh, well. Yeah, so I can say I bought him breakfast. But so hey, sponsors kind of make everything happen in eventing. So could you tell us a little bit about your sponsors and what you have?
They do, and it's the hardest part of the sport, whether you're asking for some sort of gear sponsor or someone to sponsor you and a horse. But if you don't ask, you don't get an answer. You can't be afraid of people saying no. And unfortunately in the sport, not unfortunately, but you've got to be really good at self-promotion and talking yourself up. And I sort of thought in the beginning that people wanted to believe in a specific horse, but it's more about getting a group of people behind you to believe in your team and you as a rider and on whatever horse you are riding, doing, whatever level or big competition. And so the sponsors behind product, it's huge. It's the way that we can have more than one horse, have all the right gear. The list goes on. And for them, we're able to promote them and hopefully get good results wearing their gear. And I think that the newer companies that are starting out, I think that they should target younger riders and use the good juniors and upcoming professionals to get their stuff out there, and that way people get away from focusing on the bigger names, which all the bigger professionals are sponsored by. And it's a good way to kind of support the next generation.
Did you want to mention any of your sponsors that you have while we have the opportunity?
Sure. I've got a really good group. I ride in Voltaire saddles. They're incredible. I ride in Fleeceworks saddle pads. They started sponsoring me after the barn fire because it's the only saddle pad that has fleece underneath, and the part that goes over their spine, there's no gap in the fleece. And because Hoku had no hair on her back, I had written an article saying that I had my very first half pad was a Fleeceworks pad. And I used that bringing her back. I put it under the saddle pad and then was able to ride her because put the saddle pad on top and then the saddle on top of that. So they tacked her up backwards. And the owner of Fleeceworks contacted me and said she wanted to sponsor me. And they're beautiful, beautiful pads. They look very professional and very nice on the horse's back. And then I also work with Professional's Choice, who makes great boots of all types. They really have everything. Everything from stuff for the riders, stuff for the horses, to stuff for your dogs. They have a bit of everything, and they certainly specialize in boots. I'm sponsored by Charles Owen Helmets, also very, very important. You have to wear your helmets.
Heck yeah.
And they set you up with everything, helmets.
Do you ride in 3 different helmets, or do you use the same one for show jumping as dressage?
I use 3 different. Now, I ride in a crash helmet every day at home. I ride in a cross-country helmet, and then I've got a show cross-country helmet. And I've got 2 different leather helmets that I use at the shows depending on which show coat I'm wearing. Got a black one and a navy one. I change up my outfit.
You've arrived when you got to you show up to the show and you say, "What do I feel like today? What color am I wearing?"
I actually just did that at Carolina. I said to Claire, which coat should I wear for the dressage today? Should I wear the bright blue one or the dark navy? She said, "How do you think Allie's feeling today? Spicy or plain?" She's always spicy, and then she said, "You better go plain." With the dark navy.
That is awesome.
Thank goodness for Claire.
Claire sounds nice. You have to meet Claire.
Claire's great. You're gonna meet Claire in a week's time.
Okay. Does she like copper mugs?
She has to. It's part of the job.
We'll bring a cardboard box of booze.
Yeah, right. That's right.
The bar.
Bring the bar.
We will bring the bar. Any other sponsors you want to rattle off?
Tribute feed. Great feed. All my horses are fat and shiny and without eating buckets and buckets of grain, and they all feel great and perform well. So I'm very happy with Tribute feed.
Is there a sponsor that you would find very helpful? Like, is there a product line that is there a little something missing in your sponsorship world or your gear world that would help you out?
I would love, okay, so similar to females that wear, designer jeans, I love Pecure breeches, and they're very expensive.
Pecure, you got to step it up now.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
All right, so a little shout out to Pecure. Hey, you got someone that's dying for you here. So
Equine and Country, hook me up with some clothes. I'll model it.
Okay, sounds good. Well, hey, I think we've covered it all. I know you've probably been riding horses all day long. You're getting ready to pack up and everything.
I'm ready for the cardboard bar.
We would definitely do that. So, just real quick, we talked about goals. You said you wanted to represent the country down the road. Is that an Olympic goal, or would you be satisfied with Pan Ams or WEGs, or is it like I want to go to the Olympics? Like, what's bigger for you, the Olympics?
I want to do them all.
All of them.
All of them. Nice.
All of them.
That is awesome. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. We really, really appreciate it, and you're such a good friend to us, and we appreciate it. As far as if people want to reach out and contact you and follow along for the ride, what are your social medias, emails? What are you?
Yeah,
what's your big?
I'm active on Facebook and Instagram, so you can follow me there, or my website is www.sillimaneventing.com. All my information is on there. And thanks for having me on, guys. That was great. I'm excited for you guys to go live.
Thank you.
What's that?
I said I'm excited to go live.
Awesome. Live action. All right, Caitlin. Well, thank you so much, and have a great night, and we'll see you up in PA soon.
Yeah, next week.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Take
guys.
care.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Remember, you can follow Major League Eventing on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. And you could always contact us at majorleagueeventing@gmail.com.